Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love. It's been a fun last 5 days or so, 4 days or so, with working on my own shit, folks, and I am thirsty.
Working on my own shit.
Let me just tell you, I am so thirsty and tired. Yeah, so I am drained, that's for sure.
Well, I think that's one of those things. It's a journey, not a destination. I'm always working on my own shit too. When I first got my Reiki Masters, and then since then I've just progressed and just call it energy healing because I've done tons of studying in different modalities. But I remember the lady who taught me, she's like, you can never, like, because I was like, am I even, like, who am I to work on somebody? Like, and tell them about their chakras or, you know?
Yeah.
But she's like, you're always on a journey. Like, it's not a destination. And, you know, you don't wait for perfection until you do something, you know. And then actually over the years, one of the things that's been so cool to me as I've worked with so many clients is sometimes in the session, it's helped me sometimes more than them, or it's just as much, right?
Yeah.
Of things that we discover or we talk about, or, you know, with my ability, throughout the last decade or so to become more vulnerable and transparent and not be afraid to share my own stories, you know, that, you know, before that I probably wouldn't have wanted to share. And it's been powerful. So yeah, I think it's not a destination, Myra.
It is not, no. But I also, like, on that note too, I feel like we're similar in this way. When we're talking and we're chatting, I learn so much more than I would ever if I, you know, like, talking through it and hearing other people's perspectives. Like, there's something about that level of connection that really raises my awareness a lot of the times. Like, just having the conversation and then little light bulbs, you know, like if I put a picture to it. And I feel like, I don't know, I hear exactly what you're saying. Like when you're with a client and you're in a session and things, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that before. You know, it kind of pops up and you learn, and it's just this constant growth. But I feel like that's just part of that connectedness that you're really strong in.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all here to connect, right? Human beings need connection, and connection through the lens of authenticity, though. Like, there's always this connection that sometimes people have that's a little more superficial. Yeah, it's I did a sound bath last Friday night, so right before Mother's Day weekend, and it was around feminine energy, and it was really cool. We had like 10.
Oh, cool.
A lot of them were like a mother-in-law, daughter, like from the same family units. So that was really cool. But what was really awesome was when it got done, a lot of times people are just like, you know, get up, pick up their stuff, and nobody really wanted to leave. And it was really cool because there was this really, like, not planned, just a conversation. People started sharing their experience during the sound bath and asking questions. Cool. And yeah, it was such a cool connection, and like just a sense of community where it was all women, obviously, where people could just share and talk. And yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
So
yeah, I'm waiting for the Zoom session.
Sound bath off over Zoom. Yeah, I know. They're tough to pull off. I tried when COVID happened, and it just doesn't translate the same.
It'll be like us using Riverside, and you hear like it'll be delayed. The rain will be like 4 seconds.
Yeah,
I tried, team podcasters. I tried.
You did. You tried.
Out there, listener land. I gave it my best.
Remote sound baths for all.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna make you try it again.
Yeah, we could try it again. Maybe. You know, I have better mic. I do have better audio equipment now.
Yeah.
So maybe because of the podcast. So
yeah, you're a podcast and technology guru these days. So
I'm getting there. So maybe it could be better. It's 5 years ago. I could try it again. Maybe it would work. It could be my guinea pig.
Yeah, I love it. Nola would. She'd be like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
what is this? So funny.
That is funny. So, well, today I think we're just going to talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We were talking about ignorance
Hmm.
before we got on the podcast. Just like, I said, is ignorance bliss? And I guess it can be for a while,
Yeah,
but it usually catches up to you. So,
exactly.
yeah. So we were just talking about like awareness. Myra was talking about body awareness. I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I don't want to butcher this. So we used to have another podcast.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about that before.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
on that podcast, I somehow got everyone's name wrong. Like, and I
Yeah,
knew
you
their
did.
names. Like, I'm like really great on the fly, but apparently when it's moment to shine, I'm like, come on, blah, blah, blah. I can't be perfect, right? But anywho, so like I mentioned, this weekend and last few days I've dealt with some things and done a lot of energy work. And, I had a session with Tressa, which was awesome. And then I had a session with another practitioner, and it was just really different. And I was sharing that with Tressa before we started. And it was really interesting because in the session that I had with Tressa, my chakras came up one as answers, which was really neat, to like, what should I do next? Or like, what do I need to be doing? Where do I need to be expanding? And then when I met with this other practitioner, I didn't really know what to expect. And the lady, she went through and she cleared each of my chakras. But I've had chakra clearing before, but this was very different and it was really unique. And she mentioned to me about the human design. And I'm not going to get into the human design, but if you want to know about the human design, you can look it up. Maybe
Yeah.
sometime we'll talk about it, but I don't know. You can look it up, whatever. But the number one thing that keeps showing up for me is the color gold or yellow. And it's shown up for me in many ways. And then when I did my human design, it said that I'm led emotionally by my solar plexus, which is in your navel, right? Or right above your navel.
Yeah, right up your upper
Right,
part of your stomach.
right in your
Yep.
stomach. Yeah, right there. And the color associated with your solar plexus is yellow. So in that terminology of being emotionally led by my solar plexus, it was saying I'm typically into my gut. Like I experience emotions through my gut. So I have intuitive or reactive feelings in my stomach area. The solar plexus is typically connected to personal power, confidence, identity, willpower, emotional digestion, how I process feelings. And what was also interesting with the practitioner, she said, how's your digestion been? I'm like, bleh, like not great.
Yeah.
And where I was clearing a lot of the energy was uh I was actually releasing through my stomach a lot of it and my digestion and through that part of my body. Anywho, I bring this all up because it's so true. If I've taken anything away from this, it's just how like I never really when I think of my solar plexus, I think of like I don't know my I guess I ignore it. I hate the color yellow personally. So anything associated with yellow, I'm like, forget it. I don't want it. And as I've worked more and more with it, and I've been trying to exercise that and doing exercises to really help or clear or grow or just send a lot of love and power to my solar plexus, I'm like wanting to buy yellow clothing. And which is the funniest thing. I don't like yellow. I don't want anything to do with the color yellow. But it's resonated with me going back to my body because I am such a gut person. I feel any decision in my life, and as soon as I like brought awareness to it, it is so real for me. My gut instinct. When things are off, I know they're off, and I can feel it in my gut. I
Hmm.
know, or if a decision's not really what I need to do, I can feel it. And when I was reading more into it, one of the things it said is when you know it's the right thing to do, you're very excited and you're really happy. And I have my best friend's told me that before. She's actually said she knows that I'm not going to end up doing it if I'm not happy. Like if I sound off about it, if I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
but if I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, like I got this new place to live or this new car or I'm going to do this or I'm going to go on this trip or I can't wait to go on this trip. She can tell a huge difference. And as soon as I was reading about it, that popped in my mind and I'm like that's totally true. Like if I know it too. If I'm like, uh-huh, yeah, I guess it's really not what I should be doing. Like, why am I even doing
Mm-hmm.
it? And I've not totally tuned into that. And, I've shared there's some decisions that I made over the last year that my gut totally told me this is not it. Like, I absolutely should not be doing this. I felt very nervous, very anxious, very tight in my stomach, like that it's not the right thing. And I still pushed forward and did it. And now I'm having to deal with it now. And I shouldn't have done it. And so, yeah, like we talked in the last episode about the body, what the body's trying to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was really cool. So, in my like personal growth this week,
Yeah, yeah.
it just like keeps showing up for me. So, I just wanted to bring that up and to talk about it a little bit on the episode.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting that you said these words, I hate the color yellow. That is a definite reaction to your solar plex chakra, because when you're resistant to something, it also shows you that's a chakra that is imbalanced, right? And it's funny because years ago I would have said the exact same thing you just said. Right. I had no yellow anywhere. In
Yeah.
fact, I went to the lengths of, I love straws. I drink my coffee through a straw. Myra knows this. I drink everything through a
Yeah.
straw, right? So I would get my straws out of my pantry and I would never even use a yellow straw. And I would throw all the yellow straws away at the end because that's all that was
Yeah.
left. What was so funny, because I had no awareness that my solar plex chakra was fucking a train wreck at that point, right? But
Yeah.
what was so funny is I made up this story for myself that it was superstitious. Like if I used a yellow straw, think bad would happen, right? Like honestly, I made up this whole thing in my head. Like that's why I don't use yellow straws, right? And as I progressed with my own journey, right, and understood worked on my self-love, that chakra is around self-love and understanding who you
Mhm.
are. Like it was like yellow became great. I can use yellow straws. I have yellow clothes now. Like this is kind of yellow, right? Like
Yeah.
it was also
Your
telling
nails are
me,
yellow.
yeah, but look at this. This is okay. Look at this, you guys. Yellow and blue, right? What is so
Yeah.
funny is I got these nails done a couple weeks ago. When I went to the energy conference last weekend, I did an aura reading, which shows your chakras also. And I was pretty balanced, but my two lowest chakras were the throat chakra and the solar plex chakra. My body already knew that I needed this. I was already drawn to the colors
That's crazy.
prior to
Wow.
even, yeah, isn't it crazy? So nothing's coincidental. Like we just are bobbling through life so often without really paying attention to even the little things like colors, what are we resistant to or what are we drawn to? I also was the opposite with orange back then. I was doing a ton of healing from my traumas that I had, which is your sacral. And so as I was doing that, everything I had was orange. I had orange pillows, orange jackets, orange, orange, orange. I didn't, and I started to look around like, geez, Louise. But it made sense because that was where I was focusing on the healing energy. I mean, there's something to it, right? Yeah.
No,
I know I
you're
don't have
right.
any
Well,
orange,
like
but yeah.
purple is well, yeah, like I love purple. Purple's my
Yeah.
color. But I haven't really gravitated to purple as much over the last several years. I have been obsessed with green. I have green furniture. Like green has become a neutral to me. Like my bedding
Mm-hmm.
is green. And I've always liked green, but I wasn't buying green. But I've learned that certain greens are actually my color for like to look like I look great in green.
Yeah.
Like a warm green. I look
Yeah.
superb. I am not ashamed to say that. I look superb in green. Ask Catherine. I look great in green. But it's really interesting because, like, you're right. Like, and I've been really, really working a lot on my heart and my heart
Mm-hmm.
chakra. And honestly, I feel of all my chakras, that's where I'm pretty balanced. Like, I
That's
don't know.
good. Yeah.
Like, I feel
Yeah.
pretty good there. I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you could tell me like, nah, she's not. But I feel pretty good with my heart chakra. And I had to really work on it though. Like I had started working on it a couple years ago, and then now everything's fucking green. And
Mm-hmm.
but it's so interesting. And like I've also been really drawn to red, even like before this weekend and stuff like that. Like I have red sunglasses. Like I am wearing red sunglasses, like it's just this crazy thing that I would never normally do. But it's very interesting, like the way that I've been responding to the different chakras that I'm working on. And I usually stay in a blue purple range, like a cooler colors. Like I've always felt really confident in those areas of my life, and that makes a lot of sense to me energetically. It's those warmer colors that I've never felt great in, and those are the three that continue to show up for me
Hmm.
on laying a lot more of the groundwork. And what I need to do to really work through those things and really give a lot of love to them, but I can see it shifting. Like I almost bought a yellow sweatshirt. I don't need to be buying
Yeah,
anything right now. I don't need a yellow sweatshirt in the middle of
right.
summer. But I'm like, let me buy a yellow sweatshirt, and then like let me buy this yellow dress, and I'm throwing a baby shower, and I made the theme lemons. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
yellow and
That's
blue
awesome.
invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
So it's
red
just
is
really funny. But
associated
I'm
to your root chakra, which you've been working on,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
it's crazy. No, you're good. No, and I'm very visual in general. And so, like, if I don't have, I mean, I'm usually not at a loss for words, but if I don't have the words, colors really speak to me, or like the visual of the representation. So, like with the session that I had with Tressa, a lot of my answers, like I said, came through in color. And that is just very true to me as a person. Like, I don't need to know words or direction or
Hmm.
answers directly. I just needed to see the progression of colors. And it was exactly what I needed to know. And the
Yeah.
colors continue to show up, which is cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. And colors have everything has vibration, right? And colors are
Yeah.
associated back to our chakras, which, we've talked about this, and at some point we really need to work on our chakra series. But the chakras are a blueprint for us, right? And
Mhm.
I love thinking about them as a blueprint because you can leave the same blueprint. If you have a blueprint of a home you're going to build and you give it to an architect, or sorry, if an architect draws a blueprint of a home and you give it to your construction team, that's the home you're going to get, right? If you don't change, if you want something to shift, you got to change the blueprint, right? And
Mhm.
it's the same with us, right? You're going to continue to get more of who you are, not what you want, until you do the work to change the blueprint in the chakra system, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's what it, but the universe is always giving you guidance on what that is for you, right? Like for
Mhm.
you, talking about the color red, you were drawn to the color red, buying things even before your energy sessions where you got talked about your balancing your root chakra a little bit
Yeah.
more, being more grounded. You
Yeah.
you were already being gifted and guided in the direction you needed to go. It's just us really paying attention, and we just dismiss it. Like me with the color yellow, and even down to my straws. Like I just made up
Mhm.
the story in my head as to why I didn't use yellow straws. The universe is gonna
Oh,
crash if Trust uses the yellow straw.
No, I am with you though, because like I know a person that I don't really care for as much, and their favorite color is yellow, or it used to be. And I'm like, oh, that person likes yellow, so I don't like yellow.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my best friend because she also loves yellow. It's not her, but it's someone else. And I made up this story in my mind that because they liked yellow, it's just this bad color. I don't know. Not a, or you know what I mean? Or I just can't
Yeah.
associate with yellow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've gone through a lot of colors today.
I know. We're gonna jump into Adobe
Yeah,
Illustrator
exactly.
next. But
That's great.
yeah, I mean, it ties into the other part, and I'll let Tressa take over here. But with just like the ignorance part, so like I talked about, like I
Mm.
totally like she talked about ignoring the straws, talking about being just like blissfully unaware. We talked about ignoring things. I ignored my gut. I ignored the feelings that I had. I totally ignored my intuition. And as we talk about on almost every episode, that sense of control and like just really trying to control situations and ignoring really what the answers are. Like you're asking for answers, you're begging for answers, you're wanting to know more, desire to move forward, and then you just ignore it, or you just don't listen, or you're tuning it out because you want a certain outcome to happen. Like that's also part of the ignorance. But Tressa, if you want to go into what we were talking about earlier too, this is
Yeah,
a different form of it.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the concept of heaven and hell. My personal opinion is there isn't this, fire and brimstone with a devil that you could go to. And I think heaven is a state also. I don't know if you're going to see a god with a long beard and long hair in a robe when you arrive. My version of God is there's not a gender associated to it, right? It is a collective energy, and it's a collective energy of unconditional love, right? Do I believe that there are different dimensions? Yes, I do. I believe that there are different dimensions that you go to when you're not in human form. Right now, we're in the third dimension, earth energy, right? We're living on Mother Earth. But within that, the concept of heaven and hell, you can be in heaven right here on earth, or you can be in hell right here on earth. And we are the ones who are dictating that in everything that we do. And it's all associated back to your state of consciousness, right? And your decisions and your choices and what you're putting out, you're getting back. It all ties in together. Like everything we talk about has a connective tissue to it, right? But I was kind of thinking about this concept. I was, thinking about there's been times in my life, and I've seen it in my friends' lives, right, where they are in a state of heaven. They're in a complete state of peace and harmony and bliss and joy. Mm-hmm. And you can use the word happiness, but I like joy because it's more of a state, right? I've experienced it myself, where it's just like, could life even be or feel any better than it does in this moment, right? But then I've also had the opposite, right? Where I have been in I've said this myself. I am in a living hell. Like I feel like I am in a living hell. Looking back, it's my choices have created it, or lack of choices or lack of awareness has created that experience that I have had, right? Now I'm trying to think if there's something specific that I could share with you guys. Well, okay, so when I started down the spiritual path in my late 30s, early 40s, so over a decade ago, gosh, yeah, quite a while ago, I would have said I'm in a living hell because I had ignored trauma. I ignored my feelings. I had just suppressed so much. And I was trying to live a life that other people told me I should live. Well, this is new. Didn't know I'd get emotional, to be honest. But looking back, I was being somebody that other people had mimicked or expected me to be. And my body started to react, and I had deep, what we call anxiety, panic attacks. I got to the point where I wanted to cut myself. Mm-hmm. And I understand now it's just to release the pressure in a sense, right? But that was a living hell. And those were because of my lack of awareness, my lack of the capability to really dig into some of those things, right? And then as I started to progress through those and come out the other side, to where I am today, like the capability I feel like I have today to hold an authentic energy around myself and have conviction for who I am, regardless of what other people say, do, need, from being a 0 back then to today, I say, and I'm not a 10. I'd love to be a 10. I'm still working towards that. But I'm like, right in the 8 area. And now most of my days are truly lived in a pretty blissful space, right? There are still bumps, right? But they are in a pretty blissful state. And, it can get even heavier than that in the fact that, when I've done energy work on clients based upon your vibration, right? And shame is the lowest vibration we can have. So shame is like, you're keeping everything in. You're, like for me, I've shared my story. I held in for years and years and years that I was sexually molested by my stepdad. A few choice people knew it, but I was like so ashamed of it. And when I could release that, my vibration could start to increase. But my point was, when energies transition and they leave the human form and they go into the astral world, if the energy here is really attached to human things, right? Maybe they're attached to humans so much, right? They're attached to their mate, their kids. They could be attached to food, to sex, to alcohol, to things, to drugs, to things that you can only get when you're in the human body. They can get stuck here. Like, this is where ghosts come from. But they can also, if you're at a really low vibration, they can enter into your body, right? They can be an entity. And I've removed entities from people. And, we were talking about if you get really intoxicated and you wake up the next day and you got told you did something that you don't even remember, and it's not in your nature. There could have potentially been an entrance of an entity that did something using your human form that you weren't even aware of. And that's kind of scary and dark. Both energies exist right here on earth, right? And you have to become the person who can control that. And the biggest thing that stops us is fear. It's fear. Fear is the thing that always is the killer. Because I remember on my journey, I came to a point where I was shifted a lot, and a lot of my friends had changed. It was uncomfortable for some people to be around me that used to be comfortable around me because of my shift, not theirs. And it was like, am I willing to give this individual up? Am I willing to honor who I am without having to have this individual in my life? And that was a tough decision, and that was very fearful. So yeah, anyway, I feel like I've rambled on about this topic.
This was great.
But yeah,
great. Thanks for sharing.
I think it's a really interesting topic. And something else I wanted to say is, your level of consciousness is your level of consciousness. You don't get out of it. Meaning, like, I've had a lot of people in my life commit suicide, and I've shared that story before, but you don't change. Like, all you've done in that moment is you've shifted from being in human form to being in spirit form, but your consciousness doesn't shift, right? That doesn't mean you've given up all of the pain, all of the lessons that you had to learn. You're still in that same space. And some of those energies can be trapped in that space because they were at such a low vibration when they took their own life, made that decision, right? They can get trapped. And it's interesting because for years after my dad had passed away, I went to psychics and mediums, and never a connection, never, for years and years and years. But I truly believe that his energy was stuck for so long. Like, he couldn't even get to an angelic realm because he was in such a low space when he left the human form. It took a long time. It was probably a good 20 years before I could feel his energy again in that same way, or a practitioner could. It took quite some time, So you take your consciousness with you. I said to somebody the other day, they said something about like, I don't know if I want to keep learning, or I don't know if I want to keep progressing. And I'm like, that's all I want to do. I want to do the very best I can, because I want to when I leave this human form, I want to do as much work as I can on my consciousness so that I don't have to relearn some of this stuff or go, enter back into the same karmic space. So
thank you.
I'll let you speak.
Lots of thoughts. Yeah, I agree with you. I love to learn, and I feel like a sponge, and I know people use that often, that metaphor. But really, though, I just absorb the knowledge and I listen to the knowledge. And I actually had an interaction today with a coworker where I was explaining something and they just kept asking why. And there's nothing wrong with asking why. I ask why. It's good to know. But at some point, like, there's a balance between asking why, and just listening. Like, just listen, just absorb it. You can come back and ask, And so I think it made me think about that when you were speaking, like, that individual that don't want to keep learning, or for whatever reason that is. I don't always understand every single thing that's told to me in the moment, and like you've said before too, it's a journey. We're not at the destination, but just being able to absorb and to learn as much as possible, I love it. It really brings delight to me as a person and to my soul. I enjoy absorbing and learning and sharing and learning through shared experiences and just hearing what people have to say. So I resonate with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think the person who said that, the person who said that to me is because we believe that we're comfortable when we can learn through good. What I'm using quotes, what's good, right? But we're very uncomfortable when we're in discomfort. And that's actually where we learn the most. And they're going through a hard season. And so that's why they said that. But the beauty of the hardness is where you really learn, right? Iron sharpens iron. Right? We have associated when we pray, right? Or we ask God or whoever you're praying to, what do we usually pray for? We pray for things to be easy and flow, and that's not progression. And so people don't understand to look at the hard stuff even more so. When somebody is in my sphere and they are annoying me, I pay more attention to that than I do the person that I love, right?
Yeah.
That I just get along with. They're beautiful too, and thank you for both because you need both. But man, when something is eating at me or I'm in a situation that I'm really uncomfortable with, that's when I really try to focus in. Like what is happening here? The other night I usually do a meditation at night, and it had been kind of a rough I had kind of a rough weekend, to be honest. And I was like, I literally was like, can't something just fucking go right? Like as I was doing my prayer and meditation. And I ended up actually getting in an argument with my husband. So no, apparently no, it cannot.
No.
But the next day I got up and I was like, once I got a sleep cycle, because sometimes we need to cycle
Yeah.
through, right? I was like, what did that even mean? What did you mean go right? That's not what I meant. I was telling God or the universe, make this easy. I don't want it to be difficult. I want you to take all of this away and change it for me, right? That's not good. Like, you know what I mean? And so as soon as I figured that out and went back into surrender, like this just is, right? My dog was struggling this weekend. I was upset about that. Things started to move like really quickly. You know, she's doing better. Things were starting to flow. There's been some stuff with my house that we've been struggling with. That all got worked out. It was me trying to say, you know, what is good? I don't want to deal with this. But once I let go of the definition and trying to control that space, it all flowed in.
Yeah, 100%. Because like yeah, because oh my God, you know, I really, I was super low vibrational like a week or so ago. But I really, really try not to ever go into victim energy. I really don't do the why me's, and I've never really been a why me person. But I could feel myself being like, "What the fuck," you know? Like,
Yeah,
like what
that's
the
how I was the other day. It's like full
like what's
on,
going on?
like, really, man? Come on. Like,
Like okay. And but you're so right. Like you know, I needed to work through it. It took me literally like a week. Well, and that is short for some people, long for some, and whatever. But it took me some time to really work through it. And then, like, what's going on in my life right now isn't fantastic. But I feel so at peace when I just said, like, fuck it, and like genuinely surrender to it and think, like you said, like the stuff I'm worrying about is coming faster, it's coming quicker. I'm not even stressing about those things. Like I don't even know what's happening next. And normally I would be Googling my mind to death and becoming a lawyer next week, you know, or whatever. Like I'd be a certified surgeon tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like I'm like trying to, you know, I think about like with my pregnancy and trying to conceive, like you'd think I was a damn doctor by the end of it. And I'm not doing any of that. Like to be in true surrender and to really just change my mindset with it, because you're right. There will always be lessons to learn. And you know, I was speaking with a family member and we were talking about the situation, and she said, you know, as long as you listen to she said, you know, things happen in life, but it's what you take from that lesson and then how you learn from that lesson that really matters, and like the next steps you take with that knowledge. And it was really interesting because I never know with this family member what they're going to say. And I really, you know, I was like, okay, you know, it was really interesting. And I totally agree with that too. You know, it's funny because things will, you know, sometimes I'm like, can I learn in joy and peace? Like, why do I don't want to learn through hard, you know, like, can I learn through comfort and bliss? But I'm in those states, like I'm getting to those states, and I've had those states of bliss, and I've had those states of heaven and those states of peace, and I've had states of hell. And you know, I needed this shift this last year and a half, really almost 2 years. Like it's just, if I wanted to play it out, I could be like, damn, one thing after another, blah, 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 you know? But I've learned so many different things through each of those seasons. And for the first time through it all, I am in a position where I feel like I really do not know what's next. Like I absolutely have no idea. And I feel like once I've stopped putting myself in that box, things are flowing. Like I'm not butted up against it. like this must
Yeah.
go this way and this must go this way. Because naturally, I am a problem solver. That's just what I do. That's a skill set of mine, and it's what makes me successful in other aspects of my life. And then when situations I don't have control over, if I can't figure out how to solve the problem myself, I used to tell people that it helps me watch my six, like it's a trauma response, like, and I
Mm-hmm.
wore it like a badge of honor, like, yeah, I need to know what's happening because only I can take care of me, blah blah. And once I've like let that go, like, no, not really, like I am protected, I am safe, but I don't have to know everything to be protected and to be safe. And like that's like what I've been learning. I agree. I this past like couple days, when you define what's a state of bliss or euphoria, and I've been singing with my kids again, like I hadn't sung in a long time. And I used to sing all the time, and my voice isn't that bad. I'm not like going to win American Idol tomorrow, but like I'm singing and we're playing Pop Star and pretending to be Taylor Swift together. And like even like with baby Drakey, we're running around and we're dancing and we're singing together and he's singing and we're laughing, and like you can just feel it, like the whole energy in the home has shifted, like there's joy,
Mm-hmm.
there's laughter. And like even though I'm going through a season that people wouldn't define as easy, I'm still in a state of heaven. I'm in a state of bliss because of those moments. And I feel like once I've worked through, my vibration has changed. Like I can feel a shift in my vibration. Like I can like go listen to 2 episodes ago. You can hear a shift in the voice, the conversation, the image if you watch the YouTube video, and like I can even see a shift in Blake. Like it's just totally different. And I feel like even for him, we're truly living in a state of our authenticity. Like
Yeah.
we're able to be who we want to be ourselves there. And like you're right, like I totally resonate with you. I've lived a life based on expectations and what people wanted me to be and people thought I
Mm-hmm.
needed to be, and it happened since like day damn one. Like I go, okay, thanks, I guess. And then the more that I did and I achieved, the more the layers of success got put onto me, or definitions of other people's versions of success, or what they wanted me to be, or who they wanted me to be, or how they wanted me to be, and what they needed me to do. And then it became a game of me proving them, So I wasn't actually making actions or taking actions that benefited me to my highest self. It was to be like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And then that's just not the right energy either. That's, it never was really being led like it needed to be. And so it's really cool. And I think maybe you feel a different way because you are way more enlightened. But like when I think about my life lived until the last several years, because my journey just started a couple years ago, when I think about my life up until that point, like I remember the first time I met you, and I'm pretty sure I said something like, oh yeah, if you did my energy, it'd be black. Like I would tell people my freaking heart was black, like my soul was black, and laugh about it. Like, what the fuck? Like, and I think about those things, and like I look back, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had the tools that I have now, and this could have been so much different, But that's not when I didn't. That wasn't the right time for me to know
Nope.
it, and
No.
now is the time for me to know it, and it helps me moving forward. And it's just so funny how you know, I deal with different people and I act differently and I have conversations, and I'm not perfect, and I do stupid shit often, right? I don't know. But, it's how we respond and how we move through it. And, I've definitely lived in my own personal hells, and I have lived in bliss, and it's a shift in its life, and there's flows of it, and I do agree with entities and the attachments, and I've seen that firsthand. I've seen it in
Mm-hmm.
people that are super low vibrational,
Yeah.
and it kind of made when you're talking, it made me think about like when you're looking at someone and that you're like, I don't even know who that person is anymore.
Yeah.
Like you don't
Yes.
even when you say like, oh, I don't recognize them anymore in a
Yeah.
quotation bad way. Let me put it that way. Like, because
Yeah.
some people can look at you and be like, oh, I don't recognize her anymore, and you're high vibrational, you're changed, you made a shift. But I look at different people and, I believe it 100% and that these entities can attach and can really bring people to a different state than what they're doing. And, I had someone message me and they're doing some really fucking crazy shit, folks. A little crazy for me. I'm sending love, but they mentioned something to me. They're like, my conscious is getting to me. And
Mm.
I was like, very interesting,
Hmm.
like, what do you mean by that? And, they didn't elaborate, but it made me think, when you were speaking, Tressa, about like how your consciousness and your conscience and these things continue to go with you to on and on for however many cycles.
Yeah.
But when they said it to me, it's like, okay, so then what are you telling yourself? Like, what you're in it's like they're in the in between, like this
Hmm.
they're continuing to participate and to do it and they don't remember what they're doing, but then today they're like, my conscience is getting to me, so something about them realizes like, hey, this isn't okay. But I don't recognize the person that I'm communicating with. Like, I don't know who this person is, and the things that they have held true to themselves for years, like, this isn't okay, they're participating in, and it's really strange. Like, this isn't a
Hmm.
person I recognize.
Yeah. Well, that is a strong statement, right? When you think about what that means, like
Mhm.
conscious, there's something telling them that what they're doing isn't maybe for their highest good or
Mhm.
serving them the way it needs to be, but they're not maybe quite sure what to do about it, right? They're kind of,
Mhm.
maybe people get in cycles, right? And this kind of goes back to family cycles, family
Mhm.
patternings that can last for generations after generations after generations. But there's something that they're feeling inside at this point that's trying
Mhm.
to push them to say, is this really serving you anymore? Right. And that's
Yeah.
that conscious energy. But everything has to come back to an action.
Mhm.
The awareness is huge. And awareness means that you're being extremely honest with yourself, right? But then you have to take an action to change it. You've got to choose a different way. You've got to show up a different way. You've got to do something different at some point, right? You got to make a different choice. And
Yeah.
that's where this individual is going to have to figure out if they can do that or not
Yeah.
at some level, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought about this story that I wanted to share too, because sometimes people can be extremely selfish, right? And think about themselves so often that sometimes the experience isn't about, you're getting something out of it, but it's not always about the outcome you want. You may be serving in a different way.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I drew a sheep tag. Sheep
Sheep.
tag is, yeah, once in a lifetime tag for the state that I'm in. And I had planned this out with an outfitter 2 years before. And about 30 days before my sheep hunt, the outfitter that I had booked with pulled out for health reasons. And I was like, what in the world? Because usually there's no outfitters. Well, he had gotten me in contact with a different outfitter. And anyway, I'll try to make this story short, but there is a point to it. I went hunting with this outfitter, and he had shared with me actually when I did the initial phone call and then throughout the hunt, which lasted 2 months. And spoiler alert, I didn't get a sheep. But anyway, there was a date that he kept referring to. And it was in October, where a minimum of 3 times, and maybe it was four, that he had some type of an interaction with a bear, like a bear attack, a bear, same date, right?
Mhm.
And I never was even concerned with it because I'm like, well, by that time, I mean, he's like, there's something about this. On this date, 3 different times, he'd had to shoot a bear. He'd had, really scary incidences with grizzlies. And I was like, oh, well, I'll be way done before then. I just wasn't even thinking about that. Well, I wasn't. I'd gone, I think I went back on 4 different occasions with him. And it was so crazy because I was there hunting on that day, and this guy is a really cool guy, but he's like a macho guy, and, spirituality is absolutely not in his realm. And I remember that day before we left, like I put so much prayer and energy into protection around all of us and him included. And we went out and hunted for the day and came back. And it was at dinner that night. He said, wow, I made it through the day. without an issue, without a bear issue.
Mhm.
And that night I was like, this is why I'm here. This is why. This was my purpose, to help
Mhm.
him. He'd help me too. And trust me, there's so many things that I got out of that experience that
Yeah.
it would be way too long to share. So many learning lessons that I got also, but I was
Mhm.
also there to serve somebody else in a way that they couldn't even see they needed to serve themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this egotistically, but I truly believe that like bringing in that different energy really started to shift that day and whatever that energy was around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Understand that. You can understand it if you tune in and you ask and you're in meditation and you're in prayer and you're in connection. You'll always get your answers. But it's so often that we want the answer that we want. We want the outcome that we want. And had I
Mhm.
only been focused on the fact that my only purpose was to harvest a sheep, I would have missed so many things that I got out of that experience.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I believe in that wholeheartedly, and I believe that it's not always about us, and that's okay. It's about, it kind of goes to the cliche saying right place, right time.
That,
You're where you need to be for a reason, and I think about it, that experience was a catalyst for something bigger. Everything is the finale or the aha.
yes. Yeah.
Not everything is that. Sometimes those experiences are building up or setting a path or opening a door or creating a new flow for you or removing a block. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a whole thing that could be going on, and that's what that experience is meant to do for someone else or for you or for whatever. It goes back to the monkey mind or what the people around you would be like, oh, what the hell? You didn't even get a sheep.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, okay, cool. But that's like the societal structure around it, like where people just
Yeah.
can't see past, the tree there around that. So,
Yeah, because I still reflect on that as one of the greatest experiences of my life. I mean, I spiritually grew on that trip hugely, partly because I was so disconnected from society, like completely. It was a
yeah.
beautiful experience, but I can have so much appreciation for it, regardless of the outcome of the harvest.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh, yeah. Needed.
I absolutely got the outcome I needed, and I 100% know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that so much because I agree. I agree. And that's like a lesson that I feel like continues to show up for me personally, and I feel like a lot for others too.
Yeah. Well, good episode today, man. I was a little booby today.
It's
A little
okay, you
crier
needed it.
today.
Yeah,
Yeah, I must have
yeah.
needed it. Yeah. I was like, oh, here we go. Didn't bring any tissues with me.
At least you have water.
I always got my water. Yeah. Oh, well, before we close today, do you want to tell
Yeah.
them about the journal prompts?
Yes. Thank you. I was the one who wrote it down and you remembered.
Yeah.
Yes. So, listeners, if you are listening on Spotify or if you're on YouTube or however you're getting the content, we've added into our description some journal prompts. And each week, it's only started the last couple weeks. And then this week, I provided some extra prompts if you want to dive into it. But they're centered around the episode and then maybe some of the themes around the episode, and then ways you can take this episode and go deeper for your own growth and your own healing or whatever you're meant to get out of our episodes, and it takes it just a step further.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad we're doing that. Well, you're doing it for us. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, it's a team effort, folks,
Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
and stay sassy.